Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Reader's Magnet featured author interview, where we dive deep into the world of creativity and inspiration. And our guest for today is no other than the one and only author of the book Outsmarting Obesity. A doctor reveals why we gain weight, why it matters, and what we can do about it. So please help me welcome Dr. Stewart Lonky. So, Mr. Lonky, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking. And just
Yeah.
to give you some background and your viewers some background, I am a board certified internal medicine, pulmonary medicine, and critical care medicine who has spent 40 years in practice dealing with many medical problems, including obesity and including toxic exposures. That's my background. I do a lot of work in the medical legal field as an expert in the area of toxicology. So kind of a broad background, but that's my background area. And therefore, the work Outsmarting Obesity is the result of about 10 years worth of intense work, research, trying to figure out why my patients can't lose weight.
Hmm. Okay. And I do remember, Dr. Lonky, we had this conversation a while back talking about obesity, talking about where how it's being, because again with the stigma that people think that obesity comes from their diet, but again it comes from epigenetics. I still do remember those terms: epigenetics, environmental aspects as well. And again, to all of our viewers, if you want to check that first part of the author interview, feel free to check our YouTube channel and try to see though, and you can see the first part of this author interview. But right now, we're going to be digging much more deeper onto this book with a very, very different question, which I'll be asking Dr. Lonky here. So, Dr. Lonky, we had these talks. You had the moment to talk more about your book, but I just want to ask you this. Because again, there are a lot of books talking about obesity, talking about how to lose weight and these stuff. But tell us, how does your book then, Outsmarting Obesity, different from the other books within the same genre then?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Rob, I think for the viewers,
Mhm.
every diet book out there is just that. It's a diet book. It's a weight loss book. Let me give you a clue.
Sure.
I haven't met a patient yet who can't lose weight. I don't care if it's decreasing their calorie intake. I don't care if it's taking medications. I don't care if it's cleaning up your diet and exercising. Everybody can lose weight. So every book out there is really basically telling you how to lose weight.
Hmm.
What Outsmarting Obesity set out to do was to turn things to a different focus, which is, why can't we keep it off? Why can't we keep it off? So, Rob, in the last 50 years, our obesity rates have gone from 14% to 43%.
Which
And
is
at the
huge.
same time, we've spent 3 trillion with a T, $1 trillion on weight loss products, diet plans, medications, gym memberships. Yep. And I guess they're not working, huh? That's because we've got it all wrong. And so, what Outsmarting Obesity set out to do after doing all of this research, a light bulb went on, and I said, I realized, why isn't all of this research, why isn't all of the data that are out there being talked about? Well, it's not profitable. It's
Okay.
profitable to sell you a diet, get you to lose weight, have you take cheese out of your diet, have you take milk out of your diet, have you convinced that it's your bacteria, having you convinced that it's this and that Ozempic is the answer. That's wonderful.
Hmm.
But nobody can keep the weight off. And the reason is, what Outsmarting Obesity does is it uncovers the fact that what's happening to us since the 1960s and 70s to now, that's making us get fatter and fatter, has to do with environmental toxins
Hmm.
that effectively change the epigenetics sitting on top of the DNA in our body. So we all
Hmm.
have genes. I mean, that's what the book goes into very, very, very simply. Everybody understands we have genes. The genes dictate things about us, makes us unique. We have a DNA profile. But on the surface of that DNA, on the surface of the gene, on the epigenome, there are attachment points for different molecules to attach. And the thing that causes those molecules to attach have to do with toxic chemicals we're exposed to in everyday life. So there are probably 140 to 150 genes that are involved with obesity. We have a gene, for example, that will dictate to a newly developing cell whether it becomes a fat cell or a muscle cell.
Okay.
What if it's turned to what if the gene is fixed on making fat cells only? You see, what the epigenetic gene changes do is they turn a gene on or they turn a gene off. That's what they do. So you want the right genes to be turned on, and you want the other ones to be turned off. That would be ideal. But since the 1960s and 70s, we've introduced about 85,000 chemicals into our everyday world. That's in the United States.
Okay.
So, take a look at the nonstick cookware. Those are perfluorooctanoic acid or many different alkylated substances. Some people call it PFAS. How about flame retardant chemicals? They're all over the place. We can go through the insecticides and the pesticides and the finishes and the air fresheners and the this and the that. Everything that we're exposed to on a daily basis has changed our epigenome such that you can lose weight, but when you come off your diet and you go back to what you and I would consider to be reasonable eating, you're still going to make fat cells. You're not going to make muscle.
True.
That's because you haven't changed the epigenetics. And what the book set out to do is to make people aware of this and then give them simple steps to effectively change their epigenetics to the extent that's possible, and it is possible. And secondly, to decrease the number of epigenetic changes that continue to happen so that generation after generation, we don't continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we don't have kids with diabetes. We don't have kids with sleep apnea. I mean, we have obese children with sleep apnea. It's scary. So that's what makes it different in that it's not a diet book.
Okay.
It assumes you can lose weight. I don't care how people lose weight. I really don't care. I mean, there are multiple ways. Some are safer than others. Some are better. We talk a little bit about that in the book, but this is not a weight loss book. It is, you're going to lose weight and go on some kind of program. How are you going to keep it off? Are you really doing anything for the next generation, or are we just allowing the epigenetic changes to go on and on? Here's an interesting fact for those of you watching. Do you realize that the average newborn weight has increased 25% in the last 35 years? I don't think that kids in the womb or let's put it this way, I don't think a fetus is eating Twinkies and failing to exercise. I don't think that's happening.
It's impossible.
So why is that happening? Why are our animals getting fatter? It's the same environmental things we're doing to each other. And the research, for those of you who really like to say, oh, right, well, follow the science, this book is filled with references to every article that I've read. There's probably over 300 references in the book. So the bibliography, the reference part is extraordinary. And then the book also has some suggestions of different products, different websites, different companies to look at to begin to replace things in your environment. But the hallmark of this book is the 4-step program to decrease the number of epigenetic programs. It's called AIPE. And if you take a look at the book, you'll understand it's really straightforward and simple.
Love that. And also, Dr. Lonky, just one more thing, because again, talking more about your book and talking about, because again, also just wanted to reinforce this as well too, all for viewers here, that your book, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm mistaken here, your book is not a diet book, but it digs deep onto the real reason on why we keep on having these things currently. So it's diving deep into the real cause of the problem. It's just not looking at the surface of the problem. Am I correct with this?
I think you're correct. I had an opportunity to be at a university, actually my alma mater,
Sure.
a few weeks back and give a talk to the public health department because they have a public health program
Mhm.
at St. Lawrence. And I have to mention them because it is
Sure.
my alma mater. The fact is what I told the students there and the rest of the faculty was public health is going to change. Our whole approach to things, we have to get away from food pyramids. We have to
Hmm.
get away from trying to make healthier lunches as the solution. Now,
Sure.
don't get me wrong. As I told them, there's nothing wrong with using non-processed foods.
Hmm.
But it's very important to understand that the chemicals that are doing this are not only in the foods, they're in the water we drink, they're in the air we breathe. And public health measures that focus on obesity are going to pay off in the long runs. Why? Because obesity is the basic cause of the three major causes of chronic illness.
Okay.
What are those? Diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Those three diseases are clearly related to obesity. That nobody would argue that. You can find that anywhere. The fact of the matter is that we need to fight obesity by succeeding about having a better approach to getting some weight loss, maintaining it, continuing to lose weight. We will decrease the expenditures. Think about insurance companies. How much
Okay.
money is spent on insurance by major corporations that provide health insurance for their employees? Think about how many companies do health and wellness programs.
Okay.
But the cost of a day's lost from work. How many days are lost from work from employees that have chronic illnesses that can't come in? They have diabetes, they have an infection that doesn't cure, they have kidney problems. I can just
Mhm.
go down the line. We can talk about days lost from work for heart disease and high blood pressure and all of these other things that correlate with obesity.
Sure.
So when you think of the overall corporate health world, we're paying a fortune in treating illnesses that are, and I won't say they're completely preventable because a lot of the harm has been done in the past with chemical exposures. And
Okay.
unfortunately, these epigenetic changes are passed from generation to generation,
Hmm.
but they can be reversed. So I think public health policy has to look at the environment, the chemical environment that we're in, and make adjustments, particularly geared towards the younger, particularly geared toward the younger population. So if I were going to say where is the greatest public health impact we can have, anybody who's in a reproductive age group
Okay.
that's going to have children,
Hmm.
we need to get them as untoxic as we can because those toxic changes are going to be passed on. Those chemicals are being passed through the placenta. The average newborn, here's the statistics, true science.
Okay.
The average newborn has over 200 toxins in their blood. What?
Okay.
But they were in the womb. Yes,
Hmm.
they got all those toxins. And they have all the epigenetic changes they got from mommy and daddy.
True. I agree.
So here we go. This is why generation after generation, we're getting bigger, not smaller. So that's the thrust of the book. That was the idea of the book, and the idea of giving people a very simple framework to be able to work with that anybody can use. Anybody can
Hmm.
understand AIPE. We call it APE.
Hmm.
Accept the fact that you're toxic, that you're carrying a toxic burden, identify those toxins, prevent them from getting into your body, and once they've gotten in there, eliminate them. Here's the good news, people. You can't change your genetics, but you can change your epigenetics. It's not easy, but you can do it. It's mostly behavioral, combined with an elimination of those toxins from your body.
Love that, and I really like, and also, Dr. Lonky, just want to give you also just a note there as well, talking about just piggybacking off from what you've said, especially we're talking about public health policies trying to combat obesity. Again, it is considered an epidemic as of these times, because again, it's a huge leap from a small percentage, and right now even babies that are being born are much more bigger, and we're again going back with the whole thing. We are not getting any smaller right now. These days, we have big boys and big baby girls, those things. But if I will ask you, Dr. Lonky, because looking at this on a perspective of trying to change, trying to combat it, how soon do you think that this would be something that maybe the public health, it would be a policy for the public health to work on this and combat it? Like, how soon do you think that there's a certain time frame on when do you think that these people will start doing those actions instead of doing the superficial stuff like healthy meals for kids? Which is good. It's good that you're providing healthy options, but trying to prevent these epigenetics from what you said within the reproductive groups. How soon do you think that people can start doing this? And do you think that, and if ever they continue this, how long would they be seeing some significant change then?
I think it'll take a generation. I think that this is not a diet plan to lose 20 pounds and fit into that dress. Okay. Reminds me of something my wife always told me. She said, "You know why? You know why ladies like shoes?
Why?
Do you know why?
I really don't know why though.
Women love shoes. Do you know why? Because you put a pair of shoes on and you never say, I look fat in those shoes.
Oh.
You never look fat in shoes. You put on a dress, you say, I look a little fat in it, but you love shoes. You're not going to lose weight and become unfat by following these 4 things, but you are going to be slowly changing the epigenetics. You're going to be changing the whole concept of having to be on a diet all the time. Don't get me wrong. I don't want your listeners to get me wrong and the viewers of here to get me wrong at all. Eating good food is wonderful. Yes. But go ahead to your cupboard right now and look at all the packages. And if chicken tenders have more than chicken in it, read all the chemicals. Read all the preservatives. Go ahead, read the food label. Tell me what all those chemicals do. I'll tell you what they do. Many of them are obesogens. They can change the epigenetics. We've gotten used to this, and we need to get unused to it. We need to be more critical of the food industry. We need to be more critical of the diet industry because they're selling us a dream that cannot be attained. You can lose weight, but you can't keep it off unless you have a strategy to outsmart what's going on. And what's going on, what's driving the obesity epidemic in the first place, are generations of chemical conveniences. We just have them. I'm giving a good example. All the California fires that went on, all those particles in the air, they're falling. They're falling on the ground. It's raining now, so they're getting washed into the groundwater. Some of them fell in rivers and oceans and got incorporated into algae. The fish ate the algae. We eat the fish. Hello. That's how we get our toxic burden. We get our toxic burden because we eat it, we drink it, we breathe it. In makeup, we put it on. Parabens. Just look at your makeup. See how many parabens. How many of your makeup products have parabens? They're absorbed through your skin. They are obesogens. Parabens given to experimental animals and so on and so forth, they make them obese. There's no question. It changes the PARR gamma 2 gene, epigenome. That's getting very scientific, and you don't have to know that. And the book doesn't really want to go there. It really gives you the science if you want the science, but it distills it into plain, simple English saying, you know something? Better living through chemistry was convenient, but not healthy.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that. Thank you much for that, Dr. Lonky. So and again, to all of our viewers, though, and again, book lovers, again, I would highly suggest, if you want to know the reason and want to know more about this, and if you are interested in this topic, and if you want to be part of that change, feel free to grab a copy of the book. Again, Outsmarting Obesity: A Doctor Reveals Why We Gain Weight, Why It Matters, and What We Can Do About It. Available through Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and also through Dr. Lonky's website. That's drlonky.com. That's drlonky.com. Okay. And you know what, Dr. Lonky, just want to again, as we come to the end of today's conversation, I just want to take a moment and say thank you very much for joining us again. And thank you very much for sharing and putting the idea and putting as well something that we can look forward to and something that we can try to do, especially if we want to be that part of that change in our life in that generation. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Lonky.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob.
Okay. And you know what? To all of our viewers, thank you very much for tuning in. And always remember, let me fix this. Every ending is just a new beginning in the world of stories. May your reading adventures be endless and your imagination boundless. And as we say here at Reader's Magnet, we share your stories with the world. Thank you and have a good one. Bye-bye.